So after work today, on my way here, I totally forgot that I did not grab a transmission. So I had to make a detour and grab the ZF for this car. Ignore that one for now. That's going to be for the next project. That's for the Turbo Touring. This one is for the M3. It's a little bit nicer. It's done about half the mileage, as you can tell by the amount of oil on it. Although a lot of the oil on that one is due to a valve cover gasket on the donor car. This trans is from a 2002 330i, but any ZF 310 or 320 will do. These were in the majority of 2.8 and 3.0 BMWs from 1991 to 2006. This one, like I said, is out of a 330. It's done 120K, so it should be good. Roughly the same mileage as the M3. It's out of the same chassis, so it should be a direct fit. This one here is out of a 99 328 Ci that did like 270K or something. So this is going in my personal car because I do not care at all about the mileage on the transmission. I drove it, car went just fine. So in addition to that, I will be actually pulling the flywheel out of the trunk of this car with the new clutch kit. Before I actually put it all together though, I'm gonna kind of compare the two flywheels, the 6-speed and the 5-speed, just to see if it looks like they are indeed interchangeable, and just be good to know for the future. I'm not going to do that on this car, but yeah, just for a little bit of knowledge. Anyway, I won't bore you with climbing up to the trunk, but that's my next task. Well, the great mystery is solved just by looking at it. Clearly they are not compatible, because of where the dowels are spaced compared to that. You could probably machine it to work, but flywheels for E36s are cheap enough where that is what I would definitely recommend. This is a 96 to 99 E46 M3 flywheel, so that is ideally what you want for this swap. However, you can run pretty much any combination that comes with your ZF. If you just happen to get a great deal on a transmission that comes with the setup, you could run it out of an E36 328, E46 330, 328. I would suggest you run the E36 though, because everything in that vintage has a standard sprung pressure plate that looks like that, versus this self-adjusting nonsense, which you can buy a special tool to reset, but it's just not worth it. In my opinion, I'm not exactly sure how they work, but over time they adjust, I guess, and then if you put a used clutch and pressure plate on a car, you're pretty likely to not get all the grip force or the life out of your disc that you would on a conventional one. I think the logic behind it is the clutch take-up point remains the same no matter how worn your clutch is with this, but I've never had an issue with very slowly over time adjusting clutch pedal with some wear. So before I do anything else, I'm gonna go take this pilot bearing out of the engine. Feel free to watch my video on that. Take a clutch alignment tool, which your clutch kit should come with, but I have one that's already completely destroyed for this. No, it's not even that one. Anyway, one of these things, and you're gonna get some standard notebook paper, or any paper, and some water, and then with a combination of water, paper, and a hammer with one of these things, you can get the old pilot bearing out without too much problem. So that's next on my docket. Well, mainly because I never grow tired of watching physics do its thing, I'm almost done with this. This should be the last pack I have to do here, and I'm gonna get the alignment tool, just hammer it in a little bit, and then I'll pound it, hopefully on video, so you guys can see it pop. Sorry, it's super duper hard to hammer and video at the same time, as you wouldn't believe. So there's our pilot bearing, and there's the back of the crankshaft full of moist paper. It's a cool little trick, and it works every time. So there we have the new pilot bearing in the middle. Spins super nice. You can see about how far it is. I tapped it all the way in. That's kind of what it's designed for. So there's the E46 flywheel on the back of the S54. Sorry it's not focusing. I don't know. Well, I don't know why it's not focusing, but there you go. Next step is to put the clutch kit on it, but we have to clean the friction surface of this thing with soapy water or brake cleaner, because it's coated with an anti-rust material that'll impregnate the friction material of the clutch disc if we're not careful and make it wear unevenly. So I'm going to use soapy water because I think it works better than brake cleaner, but you can use whatever you want. And there we are. Perfectly lined up. Tool works magic. The torque spec for the little guys is 19 foot-pounds? No, that's not right. I don't know. It's between 10 and 20, so you can look that one up. Flywheel bolts are 79 foot-pounds. Next step for me is I'm going to have to get a strap around the engine to pull the top of it backward. As weird as that sounds, the engine has to tilt backwards to get the transmission on more effectively. So we're back at it, and now begins the less fun stuff. And by that I just mean the fiddly little stuff that gets between you and a manual transmission, like the SMG shifter. The knob just pulls right up, so does this. So does that. Once you've gotten that far, there's a couple Phillips screws you have to deal with, one in each corner. Then this whole assembly lifts out, bezel, whatever you want to call it. The switches will stay behind, or you can disconnect them, doesn't really matter too much. But once you've got this trim out, there's a few bolts that connect this electronic shifter assembly. So first up is 2 screws. Actually, 2 more. You have to take this out to easily get to the 3rd bolt anyway, which is right back in there. You can see them. There's a 10 mil there, there's a 10 mil back there, and there's another one on the other side. Actually, you have to pull out the sunglass holder, and there's 2 more. The convertible, I never took this out because the car had nav, and that makes this a lot more cluttered. You can get at that other one without taking this stuff out, but it's really, really worth taking this stuff out because, as you can see, other than this previously dropped screw, you can very easily get to that now. So there's just a couple little electrical connectors on this shifter assembly. Another one over here. That's it. It's just those 3 10 mils, and this thing will come right out of there. Ideally. So there's this stupid thing. And that's where the shifter needs to be. Ideally you want to use a hole saw for this. On my last car, since it was mine, I just used a Sawzall and a couple of drill bits, and that was just fine for my purposes. And you know, I'm gonna look downstairs to see if I have a hole saw first, but this is really out of sight typically, and it doesn't really much matter. And I have these rubber boots, so I don't know. It may look a little rough, but really, I'm a Sawzall surgeon. Didn't even nick the drive shaft, so that's good. See down in there, there's our transmission. Sorry it's sideways, but yeah, so that actually turned out pretty well. Really nothing too out of the ordinary. The next step for me now is to go back under the car with all the shifter stuff and actually install it all. Either that, or I'm going to take that little shifter support that I have from my parts bin, which is a perfect solution for this car since, you know, the sheet metal is not prepped for a manual on this thing. And maybe I'll mark the holes and drill those out as well and install that bushing. But either way, next step is under the car, so Go ahead and unhook the power and let her rip. So, time to assemble the shifter stuff. I bought all of this new because it's not my car, and this thing's gonna do serious track duty. So, there's the part number for a Z3 shifter selector rod. This thing, definitely my favorite shifter. That's the white cup right here. That sits in that. This is the guide swing pin thing, optional. This is a ZHP shift knob, 5-speed pattern, also optional, but that's the best shift knob ever. Here's the little rubber bushing that goes through this, and then this is a 330i. Ooh, excuse me. That's Egg McMuffin. This is a 330i shifter carrier arm. First up, time to put the bushing in. Usually this will go in without additional lubrication. We will see. Might have to put some coolant on it or something. Come on, baby. Nope. I gotta lube up the bushing. Woohoo. The process to this is put the shift lever in the white piece and then slide the whole thing in so the little click out tabs click into the metal shift bracket. Well, aside from the shift boot that's clearly for an E36, this transmission is just buttery smooth. In the meantime, I'm going to pull the knob off here. There's the rubber dampener. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, reverse. Feels like it should be pretty good. Sits nice and centered. It's maybe a little bit forward from where I'd like it, but really beggars can't be choosers, and it feels like it works really well. There you can see the two nuts for the shift carrier mount. It looks pretty much factory, so you'd be hard pressed to have somebody know that it wasn't stock. Well, it picked a heck of a time to realize that I never brought a pedal assembly out here for this car, so unfortunately I think that means I'm done for tonight. But I was going to show you guys, even automatic and SMG cars just have a little piece of cardboard and then a little rubber plug capping the hole where the clutch line goes through, and the carpet's even molded for it in there, as you can tell. So I'll show you more of that once I actually get the pedal assembly out here and ready, but it's super easy to actually feed that all the way through. Very excited.